Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever stopped to wonder, before Zeus sat on Mount Olympus, before gods walked the earth, how did the ancient Greeks imagine the very beginning of everything?
Right. It wasn't just poof, existence.
Exactly. It wasn't a simple flick of a switch. It was this turbulent, mysterious process starting with, well, maybe not nothing, but something pretty close to it. A vast, enigmatic void, perhaps.
It's a fundamental question, isn't it? Where did the cosmos come from? What were the first forces at play? These myths are trying to answer that.
Totally. And in this deep dive, we're taking the sources you've shared, those ancient texts, grappling with these cosmic origins, and we're going to explore the genesis of the Greek universe.
We'll start right at the beginning. They're primordial stuff.
Yeah, figures like chaos and Gaia then move through the turbulent reign of the Titans led by Cronus. And we'll uncover some surprising details, maybe even contradictions hidden in the myths themselves.
Our mission really is to guide you through these foundational stories, pull out the most important insights, and help you see the world-shaping forces the Greeks believed were at work, long before the Olympians we usually think of.
Get ready to witness the birth of everything, according to myth.
So the ultimate mystery to start with, chaos, or chaos.
Right. And according to Hesiod, who's one of our main sources here, chaos was the very first thing, the first to emerge at the dawn of creation.
What's immediately fascinating, though, is that chaos isn't described in these early sources as just empty nothingness. That's kind of how we use the word chaos today, isn't it?
Yeah, like total disorder.
But for Hesiod, it's more like a vast, dark, unformed void, or a chasm. The word chaos itself actually means gap or chasm.
A gap. Like between what?
Well, potentially the space that opened up between heaven and earth once they came into being.
Yeah.
It represents this state of pure, undifferentiated potential. It's not nothing, it's potential nothingness, or potential everything.
Huh. And it gets even more interesting because the sources, they don't all describe chaos in exactly the same way, do they? It seems to have different aspects.
That's a great point, and that variation is key, I think. It shows how they were grappling with this concept. Primarily, chaos is often seen as the lower atmosphere.
The air.
Kind of. The invisible air, but also gloom, fog, mist. Sources mention titans living beyond gloomy chaos, meaning beyond the air, or eagles flying in the limitless void chaos, which is clearly air.
Okay.
And it's sometimes mentioned alongside either the bright upper air and the erebos, the mist of the netherworld. So it's atmospheric, but shadowy.
But sometimes it's more than just air, more like the underworld itself.
Exactly. In some contexts, chaos is equated with the gloom of the netherworld. It's called huge chaos, vast silent realms, endless night, even murky chaos when they're talking about Tartarus or the underworld, a deep, dark pit.
So it's the gap, the air, and the abyss. That's confusing.
It can be. And then, much later writers, they added another layer. Yeah, some later authors conflated chaos with a primal mud, like a confused mass of warring elements all jumbled together before some divine force stepped in and sorted them out.
Okay. And that sounds more like our modern word, chaos.
Precisely. Our English word comes from that later interpretation of a jumbled mess, not Hesiod's original void or chasm. It shows how these ideas evolve.
Wow, that's a really important distinction. So the concept itself wasn't static.
Not at all. And even the origin of chaos is up for debate in the sources. Hesiod basically says it just was. It had none for parents. It was the very first.
It just appeared.
But then you have Orphic traditions, a different set of myths, suggesting Cronus, that's unaging time, and Enike, inevitability, were its parents.
Right.
And in that version, Cronus actually begot either the brightness and chaos.
So time itself created the void, or existed before it. Fascinating. Even the absolute beginning has multiple stories.
That fluidity is really striking, isn't it?
Yeah. So, okay, after this fundamental chaos, what comes next? Hesiod mentions other beings that appear, but maybe not born from chaos?
Right. These are other primordial figures, fundamental aspects of reality that emerge alongside or just after chaos. Hesiod names wide-bosomed Gaia, that's Earth.
The ground beneath our feet, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Then Tartaros, the deep pit below, the abyss, and Eros, the force of procreation or desire.
Eros. Like Cupid.
Not quite the winged baby god yet. This is Eros as a fundamental cosmic force, the drive that compels creation and connection. Think of it as the principle of attraction or procreation itself.
So Earth, the abyss, and desire, these are like the essential ingredients.
Pretty much. They're the foundation, the boundary, and the creative impulse. More like forces or features than human-like gods at this stage.
Gotcha. But chaos does have direct offspring in Hesiod's version.
Yes. Without a mate, Hesiod says chaos brings forth Erebos, darkness, and Nyx, night.
Okay, darkness and night makes sense coming from a void.
And then darkness and night, Erebos and Nyx, they get together. And from their union come either brightness, the upper air, and Hemerde.
Oh, interesting. So you see this progression, like out of the darkness comes the light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From void and gloom to light and the rhythm of night and day. It's a powerful image for the dawn of existence.
Definitely. Are there other primordial beings mentioned in other sources?
Yeah, there are variations. Sometimes the Moirai, the fates, are linked to chaos or night. And in Aristophanes' comedy, The Birds, he cheekily suggests the birds were born from an egg laid by night, fathered by Eros within chaos. So lots of connections drawn.
Okay, so pulling this first part together, the beginning isn't simple emptiness. It's this fundamental, maybe multifaceted void or chasm.
Chaos. And from it or alongside it emerge the basic building blocks. Earth, the underworld, desire, night, day, air. It's a beginning that's not entirely neat or predictable.
Which really sets the stage for everything that follows, doesn't it? The dynamism, the conflict.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because with Gaia, the Earth now established as the ever-sure foundation of all, things start taking shape. Literally.
Gaia, she's just there, a foundational force.
A primordial goddess, the personification of Earth itself, often seen as the ultimate mother goddess, right? And her initial power is immense. She spontaneously gives birth, without a mate, to Uranus, the starry sky.
Creates the sky herself.
And the Aurea, the mountains, and Pontus, the sea. She just brings forth these massive features of the cosmos.
Wow. So she creates her own partner, in a way.
Sort of. Because then comes the crucial union. Gaia marries her son, Uranus, the sky, who covers her completely. And from this union, this pairing of earth and sky, comes the first generation that feels a bit more like distinct beings. Still huge powers, though.
These are the Titans?
Yes, the 12 mighty Titans. Plus, the 3 one-eyed Cyclops, the master craftsman, and the 3 monstrous Hecatonkers, the 100-handed ones. Immense power, immense strength.
But Uranus, he wasn't exactly Father of the Year, was he?
Not even close. He's a tyrant from the start. The sources say he hated his children, maybe because they were terrible to behold or just inherently powerful and scary. Hesiod is a bit vague on the why.
So what did he do? He wouldn't let them see the light of day. He imprisoned them, shoved them back inside Gaia's womb, deep within the earth, or maybe down in Tartarus. He stifled them.
Inside Gaia herself, that sounds awful.
It was. And this act of oppression, stopping the next generation from truly emerging, is the spark for the very first cosmic rebellion. Gaia is literally aching from the pressure of her children trapped inside.
So she decides to act.
She does. She's distressed, angry. She devises a plan. She creates this incredibly hard, sharp sickle made of gray adamant. Then she goes to her Titan children and urges them to punish their father.
But they're afraid, right?
Most of them are terrified. Only one is brave enough, or perhaps resentful enough, to step forward.
Cronus, her youngest Titan son.
Exactly. Cronus agrees. So Gaia hides him, sets an ambush. And when Uranus comes down to lie with Gaia, Cronus reaches out with that adamant sickle and lingua.
He castrates his father.
He does. A brutal, decisive act.
And the consequences are huge. This isn't just about Uranus being deposed. Stuff happens from the aftermath. Absolutely profound consequences.
Yeah.
From the drops of Uranus's blood that fall onto Gaia, onto the earth.
Yeah.
Vengeful beings are born. The Erinyes, the Furies, relentless agents of vengeance, especially for crimes against kin. The mighty giants, who will cause trouble later, and the Meliae, the ash tree nymphs.
All born from that violent act, spilling onto Mother Earth.
And then there are the severed genitals themselves. Cronus apparently throws them into the sea.
Okay.
And as they float, foam gathers around them. And from that foam arises a fully formed goddess.
Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty.
That's the one, born from the violence of castration in the sea foam. It's a really striking paradoxical origin story, isn't it?
It really is. Wow. So, okay, Uranus is out of the picture. Cronus takes over.
He becomes the supreme ruler,
Yeah.
king of the Titans. And his reign, in some later traditions, gets romanticized as a golden age. You know, peace, abundance, no hard labor.
But Hesiod's version isn't quite so rosy.
No, Hesiod focuses more on Cronus inheriting his father's paranoia and tyranny. The cycle of fear continues almost immediately.
Because Uranus and Gaia, his own parents, had actually prophesied something, hadn't they?
They had. They warned Cronus that he too would be overthrown by his own son, just as he had overthrown his father.
And he believes it. He's terrified.
Consumed by this fear. So when he marries his sister, the Titaness Rhea, and they start having children, he takes drastic action.
This is the famous part.
It is. As each child is born, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Cronus grabs them and swallows them whole, one by one.
Just swallows them to keep the prophecy from coming true.
Exactly. He's literally trying to stop the future, trying to consume the next generation. It's a chilling image.
Poor Rhea, watching her husband eat their children.
She's understandably heartbroken, devastated.
Yeah.
So when she's pregnant with her last child, Zeus, she's desperate. She begs her parents, Gaia and Uranus, for help.
And Gaia steps in again? The Earth Mother.
She does. Gaia helps Rhea devise a plan. Rhea goes to Crete in secret to give birth to Zeus. And Gaia herself takes a newborn baby and hides him deep in a cave on Mount Ida, sometimes it's said, to raise him safely.
So Gaia is actively protecting the grandson who will overthrow her son.
Yes, and Rhea, she goes back to Cronus, wraps a large stone in swaddling clothes, and presents it to him.
And he buys it.
He buys it. He takes the stone, thinks it's the baby Zeus, and swallows it down just like the others.
Wow. Deception saves the day, or saves the future king of the gods.
Exactly. And this act, orchestrated with Gaia's help, is crucial. Now, connecting Cronus to the bigger picture, there's this fascinating later interpretation.
What's that?
The link between Cronus, the Titan king, and Chronos, Chronos, the personification of time.
Oh, right, like chronological.
Precisely. Thinkers like Cicero, Plutarch, even Plato, they discuss this connection. The myth of Cronus eating his children was seen allegorically.
As what?
As time devouring the ages. Or maybe the destructive ravages of time consuming all things. It gives the myth this whole philosophical layer.
That adds so much depth. It's not just a gruesome family drama, it's about the nature of time itself.
It really does. And the Romans, they picked up on Cronus too, didn't they?
Yeah, they conflated him with their own god, Saturn.
Right. And Saturn, for the Romans, was generally viewed more positively. He was associated with that golden age idea, with agriculture, festivals like the Saturnalia, calendars, the seasons.
So different vibe from the child-eating Titan.
A bit different, yeah. Though distinct originally from Chronos, the time god, but later scholars sometimes blurred those lines again. Anyway, this connection gives us the name for the planet Saturn, and of course Saturday dies Saturni, Saturn's day.
Huh. And you even see Cronus showing up in Egypt.
In Greco-Roman Egypt, yeah, he was sometimes equated with their earth god Geb, who was also a father of gods. It shows how these myths could merge and adapt across cultures.
So, looking back at the Titan's reign under Cronus, while powerful, it's ultimately defined by that same fear and violence that started with Uranus.
Absolutely. That act of swallowing his children, born out of fear of being overthrown, it directly sets the stage for the next massive conflict and the rise of a whole new order.
But even when the focus shifts to the Olympians, Gaia's role is definitely not over. She remains this incredibly powerful, sometimes unpredictable force.
Absolutely. She's pivotal in what happens next. So Zeus, raised in secret thanks to Gaia and Rhea, he grows up, becomes strong, and eventually returns to challenge Cronus.
How does he get his siblings back?
The sources are a bit vague, mentioning some unspecified trickery of Gaia. But somehow, Zeus forces Cronus to vomit up his swallowed siblings.
What a reunion that must have been. Out they come, fully grown, presumably. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon.
Exactly. And now they're ready for war. This kicks off the Titanomachy, the Great Titan War, a massive decade-long conflict.
The younger Olympians, led by Zeus, against the elder Titans, led by Cronus.
Right. And here's where Gaia's complexity really shines. Even though Cronus is her son and the Titans are her children, she gives crucial strategic advice to Zeus during the war.
Why would she do that? Help overthrow her own kids.
It seems she ultimately sides with the new order. Maybe seeing the Titans rule under Cronus as flawed. Or perhaps just backing the likely winner. Or maybe it's about establishing a stable order finally. Anyway, at a critical point, she tells Zeus to go down to Tartarus and free the Cyclops and the Hecaton chairs.
The ones Uranus had imprisoned.
Exactly. They'd been locked away all this time. Zeus frees them, and these powerful beings become essential allies for the Olympians.
And the Cyclops are the ones who make the famous weapons.
That's right. They forged Zeus's thunderbolt, the ultimate weapon, also Hades' helm of invisibility and Poseidon's powerful trident. These tools are game changers.
So with these allies and weapons, the Olympians win.
They do. After 10 long years, they defeat the Titans. Cronus and his allies are overthrown and cast down into the deepest pit of Tartarus, guarded by the Hecaton chairs.
And that victory solidifies the new regime. Zeus becomes the king of the gods.
He divides the cosmos with his brothers. Zeus gets the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. The age of the Olympians has officially begun. Order is established.
But is it that simple? Is Gaia happy now?
Ah, well, here's the twist. The primordial forces, especially Gaia, aren't just going to fade away. With her Titan children now defeated and imprisoned in Tartarus, Gaia turns against Zeus.
Whoa. So she helped him win, but now she opposes him. Why?
It seems her loyalty ultimate lies with all her children. The Titans were cast down, so now she's angry. It feels very much like the Earth itself rising up against the new rulers.
How does she oppose them?
First, she sends the giants, remember them, born from Uranus's blood spilled on her. She incites them to wage war against the Olympians. This is the Gigantomachy, another epic battle.
The Battle of the Giants.
Right. Gaia even tries to find a magic herb to make the giants invincible, but Zeus manages to stop her. It's such a tough fight that the gods actually need mortal help Hercules to win.
So Zeus's order is immediately challenged by Gaia's other
And
children.
it doesn't stop there. After the giants are defeated, Gaia, in revenge, mates with Tartarus itself, the abyss.
Whoa, Earth and the pit below.
Yeah. And together they produce Typhon, the biggest, most terrifying monster ever conceived. A creature with 100 dragon heads, fire flashing from his eyes, making horrible noises. She sends him against Zeus.
Good grief. Another massive threat.
Another epic battle for Zeus. He eventually defeats Typhon too, but it shows that even with the Olympians in charge, the ancient, chaotic, primordial power embodied by Gaia is still there, still a potential threat.
It's not a clean break at all, is it? The old forces linger.
Precisely. And Gaia's influence extends way beyond just these cosmic wars. We need to remember her other roles.
Like prophecy.
Exactly. She was the original power behind the oracle at Delphi, the most important oracle in the ancient world. She was the source of prophecy before passing it on eventually to Apollo.
Some stories say Apollo had to, take it from her. Kill her serpent guardian, Python.
And that's one version, yes. It suggests a struggle even there between the old earth power and the new Olympian god. But she was still consulted as an oracle elsewhere, like at Agera, where priestesses apparently drank bull's blood to get her prophecies.
Intense. And she gave prophecies herself, too.
Very important ones. She foretold Cronus' fall to his son, and she warned Zeus about his first wife, Metis, saying their son would overthrow him.
Which led Zeus to swallow Metis. And then Athena was born from his head. Wow, Gaia's prophecy directly led to that.
It did. She also gave the famous golden apples, granting immortality, as a wedding gift to Zeus and Hera.
She sounds involved in so many key moments.
Definitely. She was involved in the birth of Erichthonius, an early king of Athens, after Hephaestus' semen fell on her ground during a struggle with Athena, though Gaia declared she wouldn't raise that child.
Right, Athena raised him.
And Gaia also intervened to save the nymph Daphne from Apollo's pursuit, transforming her into a laurel tree. Apollo apparently never forgave Gaia for that.
She really is woven into the fabric of so many myths, from the very beginning, right through the Olympian age and interactions with heroes.
Absolutely. And her legacy was huge in ancient worship. Revered as the mother of men, the nourisher, the giver of all life. Hymns praise her. Worship sites were dedicated to her across Greece.
And her name still resonates today, doesn't it?
It really does. You see it in things like, well, there's a streaming service called Gaia. The European Space Agency has the Gaia satellite mapping our galaxy.
And the Gaia hypothesis in science.
Exactly. The idea, proposed by James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis, that the Earth functions as a single, self-regulating system, almost like a living organism. It's fascinating how that resonates with her ancient role as the interconnected Earth Mother.
It really brings it full circle. So thinking about all this, these later conflicts and Gaia's ongoing influence, even after the Olympians supposedly won, it really shows that the power of those primordial forces and that initial cycle of conflict, they weren't just wiped away, were they?
Not at all. They seem to persist, to challenge the established order, maybe representing forces that can never be fully controlled or contained.
So we've traced this incredible journey. From the initial mysterious chasm, chaos, through the grounding, powerful presence of Earth, Gaia.
And the turbulent, fear-driven reign of Cronus the Titan.
Right through to the establishment of Zeus and the Olympian order, but an order that's still grappling with its origins. It's a history marked by these brutal power struggles, cycles of father-son usurpation, and the lingering, potent influence of the very first beings.
Absolutely. And the key takeaways from the sources, I think, are that chaos was far more complex than just emptiness. It was this dynamic, sometimes contradictory void brimming with potential.
Right. And Gaia wasn't just passive Earth. She was a proactive, complex mother figure aiding, opposing, shaping events throughout.
And Cronus, his story isn't just about tyranny. It connects to deeper ideas about time, power, the anxiety of succession, even influencing how later cultures like the Romans saw their own past and deities.
These myths, then, they're not just simple stories. They feel like profound attempts by the ancient Greeks to make sense of it all, right? Existence, order versus chaos, power, the very forces that shaped their reality.
They're cosmic dramas playing out fundamental questions. How does order arise from chaos? How is power maintained? What is the relationship between generations, between humanity and the earth?
Which leads to a final thought, something for you, our listeners, to maybe mull over. Considering those conflicting descriptions of chaos we talked about, is it air? Is it netherworld gloom? Is it a jumble of elements?
And the different interpretations of Cronus, the cruel tyrant, the ruler of a golden age, time itself.
Does all this variation suggest that even the most fundamental aspects of creation were seen by the Greeks themselves as, well, fluid, subject to different perspectives, or maybe just inherently resistant to being pinned down by a single, neat definition? What stands out most to you from this deep dive?